So we started the idea of launching a movement called Slow Medicine because we know that medicine right now did a big progress to the health of people, because medicine could cure diseases that a few years ago killed people, can make people living longer and healthier. But nowadays, a lot of times there is an overuse of medicine. And so, in comparison with fast food, we thought that nowadays there is an accent on slow medicine, fast medicine. Fast medicine is a medicine that uses a lot of resources, that over-treat, over-diagnoses patients. And so we thought, and fast medicine has lost the relationship with patients, because they have some principles. Fast medicine has some principles like, everything is new is better, doing more does mean doing better, but we thought that it's not always like this. So we decided to launch a movement called Slow Medicine in order to teach physicians, citizens, patients, that there is another way of using the same resources that are pretty useful of actual medicine, of modern medicine, of Western medicine, to use in a slow way. And so that means that medicine could be used in a respectful way. So you have to respect the needs, the expectations of patients. It should be equitable, so medicine should be the same for all people. We don't like a medicine in which few people have a lot of resources and some people have nothing. So we think that slow medicine should be equitable. And measured medicine means that we have to do all what we need for the patient, but not to exaggerate, because sometimes doing more can be worse for the patient. So those were the sort of three principles: a measured, respectful and equitable medicine that was at the base of our manifesto. Nowadays in Italy, slow medicine is very well known, because we have been invited hundreds of times to make conferences around the country, seminars, and so most of the board, the member of the board of slow medicine have to travel every week around Italy for making conferences. So it's pretty well known by professionals, physicians, nurses, and physical rehabilitators and so on. Also because we launched Slow Medicine, launched in Italy the project Choosing Wisely. So Choosing Wisely was launched in Italy by Slow Medicine, and 44 societies right now identified 5 recommendations to reduce the use of inappropriate use of procedures, treatment and tests. So more than 220 recommendations have been published right now, and so more than 44 societies are collaborating with slow medicine in order to go on the Choosing Wisely project. Unfortunately, I have to say that we are not well known by the general public, by patients. And I think that in the next few years we should do a big effort to become more popular, to be understood by people. Because most of our ideas are intellectual, and we have to reach the belly of patients and citizens, because for most of them doing more means doing better. So the idea of slow medicine is in some way counterintuitive, because people expect to do tests every day, to take medicine, a lot of medicine, and so changing this sort of mentality, change this sort of paradigm is something difficult, and it's not enough to explain that sometimes it's worth doing more than doing less. We have to find a way to reach the mind, the heart, the belly of patients and citizens. Well, slow medicine could become an international movement. Unfortunately, we do not have the strength, the organization to move around and to contaminate other states. We know that the biggest slow medicine movement has been launched in Brazil 3 years ago, and is spreading in the state. We know that there are some people in Holland, in Netherlands, in Japan, that started a slow medicine project. In the United States there are several physicians and scientists speaking about slow medicine, but they have a different way of thinking. In the United States, for example, the slow medicine is related to the end of life problems. So they think that slow medicine, that at the end of life, medicine should slow down because shouldn't be so aggressive. Our thinking of slow medicine is wider. We think that slow medicine could start from the pregnancy to the newborn, children, for all age. There is a way to think of medicine in terms of slowness. And so we think that this is a different way. Unfortunately, I think that the Brazilian movement is the one that is more close to the one we launched in Italy. Also because I was invited several times, we had several occasions to discuss, to have meetings together. So we discussed and we built the movement together. I hope that the movement could widen. I know that a lot of physicians around the world are interested about our philosophy, but launching a movement is a lot of work, a lot of activity, and needs also some money, and so it's difficult to obtain the spread of this movement around the world. Personally, I was not one of the founders of slow medicine. The founders were at least 5 physicians that at a certain point decided to get together. They found that they had the same sort of thinking, and they started to discuss what to do and decided to launch a movement. 2 of them were also the founders of slow food here in Turin, in Bra. And so they said, why don't we call it slow medicine? Slow medicine. And they had a meeting with the slow food movement and with Carlo Petrini, and they decided to use the slow adjective to add to medicine. And so at that time I was working at the director of the cardiology department in a hospital, in a big hospital close to Turin, in a city close to Turin, and they knew that I was interested in this sort of thinking, also because my way of working as a physician was as a slow physician from the beginning. When a couple of years ago I found my thesis that I wrote at the end of the School of Medicine, I found that there was a slow thinking just at the beginning of my career. So I spent all my life, my professional life, as a slow physician. And so I knew all the founders of slow medicine, so they asked me to join them, and I participated at all the steps of the creation of slow medicine. Not from the beginning, but just from the second step of the movement. At the first meeting we had in Ferrara, we had a meeting with 100 of people to open discuss what could be the philosophy of slow medicine, and then I was invited to all the meetings, and I became part of the board in 2014 when I retired from my work. And since then I'm the General Secretary, the National Secretary of Slow Medicine, and so I'm in charge of the organization of the movement. Yes, I started I followed the Brazilian slow medicine movement from the beginning, because I was invited the first time in 2014, I guess, to present, to launch lançamento do livro, to launch my first, the translation of my book O Doente Imaginado, and I started to speak with some physicians about the idea of slow medicine. And Dario Birolini, who was the first one who read my book in Italian, because of course he's Italian, and so he could read the original version of my book, and he was the one who decided to translate it into Portuguese, and who found a publisher, and so he organized my first trip to Brazil, and then we discussed with him about the movement. And then in the following years I was invited 3 more times, so I came to Brazil 4 times, making conferences all over the country, from Recife to Salvador, São Paulo, Curitiba, Porto Alegre, Campo Grande, all over the country. So I had the chance to spread the idea of slow medicine. So discussing with Dario Birolini, and then with José Carlos Campos Velho, that I met during one of my conferences, we decided to start a movement in Brazil. And then each time I came to Brazil, we had the chance to discuss how to go ahead with the movement. And now it's and we have the chance. They had the chance to organize the first national meeting next September, and I will be there as hosted and to present a conference there. So we are working together. My expectation of of the first national meeting of slow medicine in Brazil is to spread the ideas. Right now, as far as I know, it was a group of physicians who discussed together how is better a slow medicine instead of a fast medicine. But it's time to open the ideas, to have more people involved. And the best way is to organize a national meeting so that people from all over the country can come, discuss, exchange experience, and probably a lot of people, a lot of physicians can come back to their where they work, where they live, and start some slow medicine activities around the country. That's the way of doing. So there are so that in some way we expect to infect some we prepare some virus that spread around the country, but a very positive virus, of course, and that can increase the medicine, can ameliorate medicine, and can spread all over the country in order to make slow medicine part of the way of thinking of physicians. Well, as far as I know, Odente Immaginato was very well accepted in Brazil. And I can tell you, because I received tens of letters from all over the country of people asking me some questions, inviting me for making conference. And so that's the reason why I traveled 4 times around the country, from Recife to Porto Alegre, to make conference everywhere. And I think that Troppa Medicina will have the same success, and probably more, because Odente Immaginato was more intellectual, and Troppa Medicina is more simple. So everyone, every patient, every citizen can read it and understand. As far as I know, it was accepted in Italy, that was read by lay people. And also in Italy I continue to receive letters, emails right now, by people that read the book and said, well, you opened my mind, I decided to change my relationship with my physician, because nowadays I don't accept all what he asks me to do, what he prescribes me, but I have the information, the strength, the idea to discuss with him what is the best way of treat myself. And so I think that also in Brazil it will happen. What I hope is that the books will be read by lay people, not only by physicians and by professionals, but lay people, because they need to understand that too much medicine could be worse for them. And Troppa Medicina, demasiada medicina, I don't know which will the title, starts, each chapter starts with a narrative, a vignette, a story of a patient who had the problems by overtreatment. And so also lay people can, when they read the book, they start reading a chapter, they understand that is something that could happen to them. For example, the book starts with a story of a 60-year-old patient who fainted, but just for no reasons. The physicians prescribe him a Doppler, to the carotid Doppler, and sonography to the heart, echocardiogram. And they found that he had a small lesion in the carotid and mitral regurgitation, a very small mitral regurgitation. So two facts that at the age of 60 are pretty normal. But at that time, the patient became very anxious because he knew at that time that he had a problem of the heart, irrelevant, but a small problem, and a problem on his carotid. So starting from that time is not health anymore. And what we usually say is that he became worried well. Nowadays I usually say the most common disease is that of the worried wealth. We have thousands, 10,000, hundreds of thousands of people who are healthy but are worried to have something, because we as physicians, we tell them that they have to worry about something, because in this way they buy drugs, they use services, they use procedures. And so medicine can grow because we worry people. So if people and citizens accept that sometimes they are worried without any reason, they will probably live better, because they live without worries, and that's a good way of doing it. I think that students need to be involved in slow medicine, because during the School of Medicine they change their mind. I had the opportunity to give a lot of conferences, seminars and lessons to university students, because I've been invited by several professors to doing lessons in the courses. And what I found, and I think that in Brazil it would be the same, that when I speak to students in the first years of the School of Medicine, they are very receptive. They agree with the philosophy of slow medicine, because at the time they have an ideal way of doing medicine. They like the idea to be good physicians. But during the year of School of Medicine, they changed their mind. And at the end of School of Medicine, they think that the only way of being a good physician is to do procedures, to be able to do surgeries, to do any kind of invasive activities, because the School of Medicine changes their minds, and they become fast physicians. At the beginning, they are slow. They think that the slow medicine should be the solution. At the end of School of Medicine, they are transformed in fast physicians. That's a very bad story. So I think that involving students it would be very important, because I know also in Italy there are a group of students they work with us to spread the slow medicine idea in the School of Medicine, and I think that if you can do it in Brazil, it would be useful for the slow medicine movement, of course, but it's more important, it would be useful for the health of Brazilian citizens.